Now they got the yes. No, it wasn't. No, I was like, guys, yeah. I'm like, guys, figure it out.
Okay. The last meeting that was
By the way, I meant to talk to you
different
about this.
chairs.
I knew after that.
This might be different ones.
Yeah. I don't know. When I went and looked up, it was like
Are
something.
you able to easily jump on the YouTube channel and just make sure?
So, let me see back to.
That's are you guys are yeah, it's interesting. Be able to tell that.
Exactly. Can we owl it? What? No. Unless.
You're 86.
Hot dog, hamburger.
You hope.
Not yet. Not yet.
What's the thing?
Oh, I see. Okay, event.
It's USB-A to USB-C.
Switch over to the post.
Yeah.
All right,
Actually, you get to be the poor.
but it won't work. It won't work. It doesn't. What I'm doing is silly
Why?
because
Oh, I don't have
the
feedback.
owl needs to.
Everything that was in here, what I had.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. Yeah, we can't. Let's go.
Yeah, we can just have it on. This is the live stream.
What is this?
Yeah, I know that. Thank you.
That's the connect up.
It's sending you a pin. So press connect to the pin on your phone. If it's a security thing.
Okay. But we don't have so we're missing a piece on
I
the
need
owl.
to use my phone. I never, this is a new laptop.
Yeah. There's only a map that Kathleen got that she put in the box of that, but I don't know. I mean, like, a lot of different parent groups using it, so get specialty pieces, but. Right, but if you have specialty pieces, make sure you have those on your first, because this goes to a number of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. We'll figure it out. And we're live right now, right?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. just in case, you know. All right.
Cool. Logan will be home at 6. If you want him to. Okay. Okay, let me know. Yeah.
You're 0% there.
Starting.
What were you trying to do?
Trying to get on the internet and then it said starting.
Cool.
What is it today?
All right. Well, let's get going.
Yeah, let's start.
People have been looking at my face for like 10 minutes. Go further. Okay, guys. Understand. I don't usually do this, but I'm like, I'm right there. What is that?
Oh, I brought these are, vintage baggage. So I have these different, I bought these to put on those people, connectors.
Oh,
Oh, these, well, it's just like, yeah, they're cool. I basically, two together.
Well, I thought she was, but I don't think she's. Laura,
Supposed to be, she told me she was.
6 o'clock? Is she thinking it was 6 o'clock?
But yeah, but
5:30 though?
I gave her, yeah. I sent her an email with everything in it. And then I even met with her. We'll see. I'm in the process of scheduling like my monthly check-ins with her.
Yeah.
I'll ask her tomorrow.
It's a nice style. You should keep it on, Nicole. Nicole. All right. It's really unfortunate. No, I think that's it. Our Byron. I did not see Byron. I hear you. Yeah, we do. We're good. All right. We can get started. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our local school council regular meeting. Before we get started, I wanted to run us past or through our norms. So throughout the meeting, we will be an active, engaged, contributing participant by sharing perspective and actively listening to others. We'll be flexible and respectful of others' time and decisions. We will be open to other people's truths and perspectives and be reminded of differences in cultural and social backgrounds. We'll be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings. We'll be reflective, collaborative, and supportive. Always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and social-emotionally? Respect student, staff, and LSC member confidentiality, unless there's a threat to safety. Our meeting should be paused if LSC members or meeting participants experience harm due to their identity, including, but not limited to, gender, sexual orientation, race, etc., etc. The harm should be named. We understand that not everything has a right now solution, and we trust that the process is ongoing. With that, I'd like to again welcome all of our participants here today and do a call to order. And before we start, for those of you joining us via the YouTube channel, apologies, you are going to see my face and my face only for the rest of this meeting. We had a little technical issue here with the owl. So one piece is apparently missing, so we'll fix that for the next meeting. But I'll try my best to repeat some of the questions and make sure that everybody understands what's happening throughout the call, throughout the meeting. With that, I'd like to, so we'll do a call to order. Now Matthew Kwame, parent rep. And we have two members of our council who are currently not present. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the order of the agenda. For those of you joining us, we post the agenda meeting, the meeting agenda, about 48 hours prior to the meeting in front of in the front doors, and also on the school Google Drive. I'd like to make a motion to approve the order of the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. The next item here is approval, items needing council approval. We have a standing item that we include to all of our meetings. The first one is to allow LSC members to join the meeting remotely. I did not get any requests from any members to do so. So I think we're just gonna move on. Very good, thank you. The next item here is the approval of the minutes from the September 14th, 2023 regular meeting. Lindsay, thank you very much for sharing that and for doing double duty at the meeting last time. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, allowing that, is that the standing?
That's right.
item?
That's correct.
So it's not us voting on it.
Correct. That was done last time. Now every time we move on or we start the meeting, that's one of the things that we'll ask and we should be good. Okay. Any discussion about the prior meeting agenda?
Oh, that's a bad topic. Sorry.
So-
And giving us some problems.
The second page. Very good. I mean, Kathleen, it would have been a much shorter meeting. But yeah, no, there's a lot more. We're done. Any discussion about the minutes? All right. I can do that. So before we go into vote, Rocky, thank you for reminding me this. We have a Spanish interpreter here in the audience. If anyone in the audience is looking for interpretation, we have it. So thank you for coming. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 14th, 2023 regular meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. Next, the back page, there are a couple of temporary leasing agreements and other programming, fee-based programming requests that came through. And we'll go through each one of them as noted here. The first item is the homecoming dance on November 17th, leasing agreement. Yep.
This is for an FOP jointly with PSO, mainly coordinated by PSO along with some school staff members for a school dance on November 17th for 6th through 8th grade students, so students in the middle years program. And so there's the leasing agreement for FOP/PSO to use the space, but then also the second thing is the fundraising proposal, because there will be some funds raised on school grounds. So I will make a motion to approve the temporary leasing agreement for the November 17th dance.
Discussion. Like to, so 6th to 8th grade are all the students allowed, or
Yes,
it's open to the community?
no, just students. at
Just-
peers.
Just peer students?
Correct.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Lawful? Any opposed? Very good, thank you. The motion passes. So this is for the leasing agreement. So we do the same thing for the fundraising proposal as described by Lori.
That's fundraising.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Yeah, the motion passes. The last item or the third item here is Willow House, a leasing agreement.
So Willow House, a nonprofit organization that has reached out to hold a grief support group for children and families. They have clientele that they work with. They used to hold a group at Sullivan High School, but Sullivan was no longer able to provide space. And I listed the dates that they're requesting. They will pay the school for security to be on site. It's like 3 hours on the days that they would be there. So it's in the evening. I think it's like 5:30 to 8:30. So security would be here then during that time. And they're going to use four rooms at the school. And it doesn't conflict with any of the things that we have going.
4 rooms at the school, independent of the other programs that are currently given. Okay, in the afternoon between
Correct.
after 5:30.
So I'll make a motion to approve the temporary leasing agreement for Willow House. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Passes. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you for describing this. The next item on the agenda was going to be an exciting one. The welcome and the report from our brand new student representative, Omolara Ekundayo. She's unfortunately not here. Maybe something happened, but we would like to extend a warm welcome to Omolara. I think she's an 8th grader. And really excited to have her in. So folks, we have our student rep. Very cool. All right, now we're jumping right into principal's report.
So I emailed the report earlier this week. It's also posted on Google Drive. I won't read everything, but there's a couple of things that I'll highlight from each of the sections. In our last LSC meeting, there was a question raised about how schools define rigor. And during our September 22nd PD day, we had done some reading and thinking around what rigor means to us at Pierce. And we have anchored our definition in the work of Blackburn. And our definition is rigor is creating an environment in which each student is expected to learn at high levels. Each student is supported. So he or she, and actually in my opinion, I think that should be they, can learn at high levels, and each student demonstrates learning at high levels. So this is the work that we're anchoring in. We have done some work during grade level meetings to look at the HES matrix, which looked at Bloom's taxonomy along with the depth of knowledge framework, to look at how do we developing our own understanding of how tasks are cognitively challenging for students, and then looking at teaching practices that also enable cognitively demanding teaching so that students are learning at high levels. And we will continue that work all year long. I met with the sole person in the district who is leading the student voice committees across the city to learn more about district resources that have been created to support our work with the student voice steering committee that's in formation. And that meeting was extremely helpful because there's some really strong tools that we can leverage as we're beginning this work. There's like even professional development modules that we can anchor ourselves in when we start doing more direct work with teachers. So I'm excited about that because it created a lot of clarity in terms of like how we can move the work forward. Our first student voice steering committee meeting will take place on Friday, October 27th during our professional development day. But ultimately we need to really move towards creating student engagement on that committee. And so that's something that is not currently in place, but we want to make sure we're doing that very early in the process. Our CIWP quarterly checkpoint meeting was initially scheduled for October 11th and had to be scheduled to October 24th. because of the high school admissions test. Well, now I have to reschedule it again because the high school admissions test was now reset for October 24th. And I just literally made that connection right before that was. So. Mhm. Yeah, no, I was looking at next week's schedule and I was like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work. So I will email all of the committee members to work on an alternative date. Exciting news around our work with student behavior. I've been working with somebody at the district around the lack of reporting features and filters for us to pull data in a very clean way. And they were able to identify a way for me to very quickly download information with the priority categories that I want, so that it's not taking the amount of time that it had been taking prior. And you'll see at the very end of the report, the classroom referral data. So this one is a lot, I think, cleaner because these are showing actual referrals from the classroom, which is something that we were having a very hard time capturing before because we were getting referrals. Some were going to a student code of conduct violation and some weren't, but this is showing us all referrals. So I want to now go back and see if I can now do the same thing for school year 22 so that we can have cleaner comparison data. So I'm excited about that. From a budgeting angle, we received, we ended up with 18 additional students on the 20th day compared to when our budget was initially allocated, which is resulting in $90,854 coming back to the school. And so I need to work on a plan at getting stakeholder input and then work on proposing a plan to the LSC on how those funds could potentially be allocated. FOP allocated $125,000 to go towards programming at the school and have already given us a check for $69,500 for our arts partnerships, which is very exciting. I'm also excited to say that this year we actually have a partnership identified for all pre-K through 8th grade classrooms. Last year we struggled getting somebody for pre-K and then we weren't as happy with kindergarten and 2nd grade, but this year it seems like we'll have a much better array of programming. During the last professional development day on September 22nd, teachers continued alignment of IB units to the Skyline Science curriculum. What we realized is that some of the way that teachers had been thinking about science instruction was not exactly aligned to the NGSS standards, which are the national science standards. And so we're having to make some significant shifts. We're also having to anchor our work in the district's recommended curriculum, which is Skyline, and that's accessible. It's amplified via Skyline, but then also some tweaks made from the district. But as we're doing this alignment, we also realize that some of the resources in Skyline are not, like, they're very content heavy and not enough hands-on. And so we want to be, it's going to take a little bit of work to figure out where do we need to embed more of the hands-on and where do we need to keep it from the content. So this will take time, but I think we are at least on the right track with that. After school programs began. We also have an EL after school program for kindergarten through 8th grade students. This year, I actually have 3 teachers that are going to be supporting our EL after school program, whereas in years past, we've only been able to get 2. So we'll be able to support more students in the EL after program. Our ILT continues to meet and look at the development of the PD calendar along with protocols and a process for peer observations this year. Our goal is that all teachers will have engaged in at least 9 peer observations between now and the beginning of April. And then some of the ILT members attended the district's ILT Institute, where there are additional resources shared on how we think of the development of an ILT. How do we look at pushing instructional practice in a rigorous way? And then just individual development as teachers move from teachers to teacher facilitators of learning. We have already completed 21% of our teacher observations. So we've been hitting the ground really strong. Having Latasha Randall, our resident principal, has been very helpful in supporting dividing out the teacher observation.
We've also, through professional development, dug into the Branching Minds platform, which is where we're housing our intervention data so that we can track progress of students receiving tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And that aligns to our priority area 2 in our CIW. And then teachers have continued for reading and Freckle for math in the classroom. And the teachers completed the beginning of the year STAR assessment review during the state of the school presentation. I will share where we're at in terms of school data. And report per day is next Thursday, and then there's a day off next Friday. And we've held several information sessions for families, from special education to restorative practices, a session around the high school information, a high school like transition process, IB information session. And then yesterday was literacy night, which was a really lovely like change in the way we've done literacy night, with a focus on storytelling and thinking more about like identity within storytelling. So we've received a lot of very positive feedback with that switch in the way that we structured that event. Heritage Committee continues to meet on a bi-weekly basis, and there was the Heritage Showcase Prezi that was emailed out to the school community. Move-a-thon was amazing, so thank you to FOP and all of the families, students, and staff for supporting that. It's exciting news on our work with affinity spaces. So last year we created affinity spaces for students who identify as Black. This year, Nana Adu, Candace Cook Bay, and Caleb Parks wanted to switch it into a Black student union. And so they're meeting every Friday with 7th and 8th grade students during their lunch period. And so far that seems to be going well. And Josiah, who's our partner with Northwestern, is supporting training and development so that we can expand our affinity spaces. So Dante Williams will be leading our 5th and 6th grade affinity space for Black identifying students, and Liv Fonte will begin leading the 7th and 8th Latina affinity space. And so we would like to also do that for 5th, 6th grade students, but we're not yet ready. Our teacher rep, Anna Choliko, will be able to begin at the November meeting, providing the Board of Education votes her in at the October meeting. And then I also provided some updates on staffing. We continue to have teachers out on leaves of absences, and then some newer ones from some things that have been happening to our teachers that have been a little unfortunate. But we are doing our best to fill some of those vacancies, which has not been the easiest. But I provided an update on where we're at with staffing. That's it. I'm open to questions. Oh yeah, it's personal. Yeah, it's just like health matters that have been coming up. No. It's just like people are just having like health situations come up. Yeah, so I put in here that we have a kindergarten teacher that's out until the end of November, a pre-K teacher assistant that's out. Yeah, they're listed, they're bulleted out. 2 3rd grade teachers. Yeah, that one we would like to hire a temporary teacher for. We currently have 2 of the teachers that we have in place are substitute teachers, both who were former classroom teachers. For 4th grade, teachers on a leave. Have you been That's what we have to figure out. Okay. Yeah, so next week when we meet, there's a bunch of things we need to talk.
The discipline data that you're getting, like, further reporting actions, will that include, like, what disciplinary actions are taking place?
We can,
Okay.
we can do that. Yeah, so when, so in like, for students who have an IEP and students who are in the English language learner program. Okay, so 8 of the 17 classroom referrals were for students with an IEP. That's 47% of all referrals. So that section won't add up to 100. And then 3 of the 17 resulted in 18% of the referrals for students that are in the bilingual program.
Similarly, the percentage of, so it's saying the Black students make up 7.1% of the school, and since there was 2 referrals for Black students, that represented 12%
Correct.
the Black.
12% of the
total
17 referrals.
You know, here we have white students heard the most, but two Black students of 7.1%, that's about 77 students. So I just want us to keep in mind the disproportionality for over the numbers.
And so Rocky, and going back to your question, I think maybe I'm understanding what you're saying. So in our entire school population, 14%, 14.8% of our entire school population have an IEP, yet 47% of the referrals came for students with IEPs. And that's where we're seeing the biggest area of focus. Any other questions? Rocky?
What is the heritage committee?
Heritage Committee is a team of administrators and teachers, and I believe there's some parents who have recently joined the committee. They meet every couple of weeks to look at events and themes based on the identified areas that we're honing in on. So they've done the work on Hispanic Heritage Month. They're doing the work around Indigenous Peoples Month. They'll look at like each month there's like a different area of focus. So helping to create the curricular guidance for teachers. And then Racial Equity Parent Group had also, I don't know that it was rep, it might have been a parent had shared some really great resources that we could then communicate to the community that identified like things that we may not even be on our radar as it relates to individual identities, and just creating further awareness. I'm not sure.
The last table on the list was- This is
Mhm,
completely,
mhm.
it's school demographic, if I take 48.7, 48.6, it's like 97, it's a less than, where's the other one? It's like 2% left somewhere. Is it just missing or not reported? Yeah, so if I think 48.7 plus 48, right? Doesn't, it's completely, I'm just saying, it just doesn't add up.
I'll double check that. No, because
Right.
they would be in non-binary. They would all end up in. I don't think so. I think it's one of 3 options. I'll double check that though. Actually, what I'm wondering is, are we missing students' gender identity on a couple of students? That's what I'm thinking happened. Yes.
It was a part of the geometry. I like the new format.
Yeah. Right there. Virtual language.
Well, I'll look.
It's right above it.
I'll
Right,
find
right
it
here, it's right
eventually.
there.
Oh, there it is. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the concern was, or just a basic update on what's happening?
So this year, students who were in 7th grade that passed the citywide algebra exam were unable to go to Sen High School for the accelerated math in 8th grade because Sen was no longer able to bring in the large number of students. We have 19, which is about 20% of the citywide population of students that are taking advanced math as 8th graders. And it used to be that we would send 8 to 10 students, and it was not an issue. Last year we sent 23, this year we sent 19. They said we don't have like the ability to just bring in all these kids. Swift is sending 4, but 4 is easier to accommodate than 19. And that would require like teaching of like another teacher sort of taking on an additional class. And so I found this out in May, and at the same time, the district was creating like these extended hubs for virtual spaces. And so we were able to partner with the virtual academy to provide geometry for our 8th graders who passed the citywide algebra exam. This is the first year that the district is doing this. And there were concerns from families and from students about the role of asynchronous time versus synchronous time. Some frustration that kids weren't actually able to go in person, like wanting in-person instruction versus virtual instruction. Concerns about some of the practices that the teacher was employing. And so the class is a 45-minute live class, and schools were told that are taking it during the time that we are, that the class is 8:30 to 9:15. That's when the teacher is available, and to schedule 15 minutes of asynchronous time before, after, or a combination of both, because elementary school schedules are built in middle school on 60-minute blocks. And so students where that 15 minutes can be afterwards had greater access to the virtual teacher because the virtual teacher is available asynchronously during that time, whereas kids that have that at the beginning do not have access to the virtual teacher during that same time. And so that's been the biggest point of frustration. And I've been trying to communicate that this isn't like pure school doing this. It's like, this is the way the virtual academy is currently structured. And so we had been trying to field the concerns individually, or like sometimes we're like group emails of families. And so we decided it would be best to just bring virtual academy administrators with Pierce administrators with those families together so that we could share the history of the work, where we're at, and like possibilities for the future. And so that happened, I believe, Monday of this week. And so we at least have like a common understanding where some things may not be ideal, but it's the best that we could do given the circumstances. I have asked the district if they could consider funding, like a teacher at Sen on their prep instead of sending our kids to the virtual academy. Could the district reroute those dollars so that a Sen teacher could pick up an additional course on one of their preparation periods? And that is something that they're hearing from other schools and that they're exploring, but it's not something that's going to be ready this year. Correct. Yeah, and actually the students at Pierce are all on their individual
Oh,
phone
got it.
books.
Okay.
Takers, from the Pearson IB partnership, you're saying?
I'm just curious what the outcomes of that were, and I hate to ask questions just on her, but I, as a parent whose child is likely going to go to STEM, I've heard that partnership is bigger.
So I don't know that that's necessarily true. So the partnership meeting was great. So we've got our IB coordinators meet regularly and we create cross-school observations and planning meetings between the Pierce teachers and the Sen teachers. The principal at Sen received the contract in January. And I mean, there's a lot going on in the first year, but the principal is being supportive towards the partnership and release time, supporting the partnership in terms of the collaboration between both of the MYP coordinators. And we meet on a quarterly basis. So the IB partnership is being maintained. It's before I even got here. To maintain a cohesive MYP curriculum between 6th through 8th grade and then 9th and 10th grade. And to create, we have basically a pre-K through 12th grade IB option in the same community. And I think it's been really great that kids can see like they can continue their high school education at their neighborhood school if they choose. Gowdy and Swift don't, but Kelmer is in the process. McPherson has QIP and MIP. I think you all should have received something to sign up, and then the teachers are supposed to send it home, I think, by tomorrow. So if you don't hear by tomorrow, I would reach out to them.
They can, for the teachers, if they can sign up, yeah, ask them or something. We can use that. For, like, to put people's. No, I'm just saying.
Not right now, it's internal, but it's anchoring it into the district's curriculum, which is aligned to NGSS. And then teachers have been attending the district science professional development series, but those sessions are even led by CPS staff persons. They have like a person per grade level that is a grade level content area PD. It's a big shift.
Thank you, Lori, and thanks everyone for
I'll come back on.
the questions. Take it away from you.
You want to say something? I'm like, oh, thank you. You said it was so good.
I am not watching myself. All right, next item on the agenda is the budget. I think you did include a line here for internal accounts.
So I can start with the first one. One is just the general internal accounts that I had emailed out, which shows our internal accounts balance up to September 2023. And then the second, there'll be a budget transfer. So the first one, I will make a motion to approve the internal accounts as shared via email through September 2023.
Second. Any discussion?
No,
No.
we're talking about like the bank statement that I had emailed out.
All in favor? All right. Thank you. And then the second one is.
So the second one is FOP wrote us checks for 69,500. We're still waiting for those to clear and show up in our internal accounts. But once they show up, we then need to do a transfer from internal accounts into our budget line so that we can create purchase orders to go to the vendors. And so I'm asking for approval now so that once it shows up, we can just start that process because everything just becomes delayed. And it's because the amount is so large that I have to request that approval. So I'll make a motion to approve the 69,500 from FOP once it arrives into our bank account to then move it into the budget line as listed here.
How many checks did you get from FOB?
There were 4. Yes,
Okay.
You said move into the budget.
budget line 124
This guy.
54125.
Gotcha.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. And we have the standing transfer funds and others that we have.
Yeah, we have no other
Very good.
transfers, but hopefully the next week.
Thank you, Lori. Next on the agenda is public participation. So we have a sign-up sheet there. We are going to check the inbox just to make sure and then take questions from the audience. Is it Chad? Yeah, go ahead. Your time is now. Yeah.
Yes, with a U-Haul, right?
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thank Mr. Amy for helping us along successful move on. We're really excited about that. We're able to raise $44,000 short amount of time for the last time. As we just heard, the arts programming funds, those came directly from so the kids really helped put the funds in. So I want to thank the kids for all the work they did to raise the funds. We received a written report, so I won't take too much time. PSO is putting on Fall Fest. I'm very excited for that. I will encourage everyone here, you can volunteer for that. I'm going to be there probably all day, I think, helping out. So if you have a chance to volunteer there, we will have a volunteer sign up. So I want to shine light on that. We have to put forth. Have a great day. So other than that, thank you all for the time. Good question. Oh,
You jump straight into the next topic.
I know.
So
I didn't know I had the leads.
you're good.
But I just ordered 8 adapters. So we're gonna have 4 here on site in that closet over there. Because we don't know what happened with the other one. So I love 4 in the. So that's a USB-C female to.
That's right.
Totally, I understand. Yeah, no, that's why I donated those to
I need one more.
the box.
I need one more.
Originally, FOP purchased that for every group of students, so I'm gonna make sure, make it great for Kathleen. Yeah, totally. Oh, please, by all means. Oh, yeah, so, that's a great point. We have this thing called memorandum of understanding, and essentially what it does is outlines what we have as a 501c3 for reporting, types of funding mechanisms we have in place to support parent groups. And we gave one to each of the parent groups to get us up, to back, and to wrap. And the intention here is to professionalize what we're doing more so because we took in $179,000 last year. That's the most we've ever done. So we want to make sure we have mechanisms in place for accounting purposes. When future boards come in, this is my last year doing this. So when other people come in, they'll be able to see record of in the past. And we're able to be, essentially we see ourselves as a support mechanism of those parent groups. So we want to make sure that we have, you know, as we mature, this is one of those things that we felt was a good first step into. The one that we haven't executed yet is back. There are all these positive steps forward, but CPS is what's holding us up. They said no, we can't have an email even to say, okay, so we'll have to look at what that means because that's something.
Series of things. I have it in, I don't remember. I don't like, there was a series of.
And that's because we're a CPS organization.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're happy to talk to anybody about that too. They want to set up a meeting to make sure that everybody's on the same. Nothing legally binding about it. Really, it's about making sure. Oh, yeah, so that's like putting together different tiers for businesses. So when we go to businesses, we'll have a tiering, but also how families can support on an ongoing basis, sustainable, make it some more sustainable. And that way we have less. Yeah. So I've been talking to Gaudi, a couple of the LSC board members there, about how we can do some type of collaborative funding. We have some ideas. One is we're doing kegs for kids with, I say kegs in the school. So I may need to be removed. We're working with Hopley. So far, we've raised $1,600 in 2 months doing that. So I think it's a great mechanism to support the other schools. We've talked to Gaudi about that. We've talked to them about talking to their principal about a need they may have that's around $700, $800. And we have a parent who's willing to purchase a keg if the funds go to the family. So we're trying to figure out how best to do that. I just wrote Nick and Josh today, the 2 reps I've talked to. I've asked them what the status is because we have somebody set to do it. So we're just waiting for that. Another thing we would love to do, Lori, I want to talk to you about is maybe Midsummer Fest, having a dunk tank, where there are 3 days of dunk tanks. 1 day is Pierce, where we have Pierce staff and teachers who are the dunkies. And another day is maybe Gaudi, another day is one thing we can't do legally because of the way our 501c3 is structured is hold the money. So we've got to figure out how, if we do collaborative fundraising, how that money gets transferred without us passing. It says that. More information on, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to let's look at Gaudi. McCutcheon we've talked to as well. Greg Carroll, who's also part of Uptown United. I've been talking to him. He's on the Friends of And we're working to connect with others. We want to be mindful of boundaries too. Where we have overlapping boundaries with the school, that's when we he asked us to be a part of an event in that town. You know, that's really kind of out of our boundaries. Like uplift is a part of it. We just want to make sure we impact the ways in which we're being mindful. Yeah. Yeah, I ran into Greg because of some meetings last year. So, that's one of the questions we have is how do we, because we're an IB school, really that's about global thinking more than just your local community. So that's why we're really interested. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, so we kind of commingle item number 7 and item number 8. Yeah, that's okay. We'll send you a check. All right. So did you? I don't.
I do have an email.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read it out loud. To the Pierce LSC, I'm unable to attend the LSC meeting tonight, but I wanted to write to express my concern and ask for more information around the use of screens for students at Pierce. I have 2 kids at Pierce in 1st grade and 4th grade, and they both talk a lot about computer games that they play in class every day. My 4th grader estimates that she spends an average of an hour each school day playing different games on computers for various classes, a number that doesn't include computer use for typing or research, or time spent watching movies and videos in class. She spends more time on screens at school than she does at home. I know that these games are understood to be educational in some sense, but it seems to be taking the place of actual in-person instruction and interaction with other people. Regardless of the content of these games, our family is concerned about the impact of so much screen time on our kids' developing brains and attention spans. Does CPS or Pierce have any guidelines about the use of computer games in classrooms? How does the school determine which games to use and when to use them? Are there expectations or limits around how many hours a week a child can spend on games in the class? And I would appreciate any information that you can provide to help me understand.
Sure, response. So I wonder what the games are. So one is, I guess, to talk to the teachers to figure out what the games are, because we have some of our, as I'd mentioned, Amira and Freckle, and then we also have ST Math. We do have some of our intervention platforms that are online. And some of them do present as games, like ST Math feels like a game for students. Yeah. Freckle also sometimes may feel like a game. So I guess I'd be curious what is being described as a game, and is it an appropriate game? And if not, then we would need to know like what that is. So there is like sometime every day spent in mostly in like K4, where there is that virtual learning space. But there is also a lot of opportunity for teacher learning and student learning. So it's not the entire day and it's not the entire block of a content area. And it is in alignment with the district's recommendations. And then there are times when there is a video that is used during instruction. We've told our teachers that all of the videos have to be aligned to the IB units of study. We've really pushed from just like these really random videos that used to be happening, that we saw problematic in some spaces. Skyline does have some videos built into it, so some of it could be there. It really depends on like what being taught where, and that's why I would encourage the conversation with the parent and the teacher to learn more, to figure out like what exactly is this. But I mean, there is like, with like the shift in tech, there is significantly more screen time than there's ever been. Correct.
Okay, so a student would only really engage with those with their intervention.
Not
Yes.
necessarily. Some of the platforms are like from a tier 1 perspective as well. ST Math, but even Amira and Freckle can also be used at a tier 1 angle. We also use like Raz Kids, reading A to Z. We've aligned the virtual platforms that we're using. And we've said no to a lot of like one-off requests that teachers were asking for. There's one more thing I was about to say with that. Oh, and the district has actually started to block a lot of sites so that there were things that kids may have been able to get to before that they no longer can get to.
Like a guideline or limitation, there's no. I don't think so.
Not that I see. I mean, best practice would mean not your entire day, but there will
Right.
be some time.
Okay, there's no sort of like. Yeah, I think that's what that seemed to be one of her questions. Does anybody else have any to add?
Yeah, and then, right. I didn't know how,
Mhm.
like how it really depends. If you're concerned about that, so I would say that's something to definitely talk to the teacher. There are some places where that's used as an intervention for students who maybe struggle. Okay. So. Generally, we want our kids to be able to write. So if it's typing or physically writing, like we want them to generate their ideas, like without having to speak it. Yeah. But for some students, that becomes an access point. Yeah. It is also used with students that are in the bilingual program, and sometimes that becomes really helpful to also be able to tell.
I understand.
So when I read this, it really struck a nerve with me because it's something that I am pretty deeply concerned about, not just at Pierce, but overall in a lot of classrooms that I go into. So I wrote down some notes for myself that I wanted to just share. Is this still public participation? Yes, right, just through public participation because I didn't put it on the agenda. So one of the things that I think I would like to have a broader or longer term conversation as a school about this, but this idea that technology is a tool, right? And just like we have many tools to support learning, it seems like the proliferation of this tool is just kind of being used in a way that's sometimes not at all engaging students and replacing student-teacher interaction in a way that I think calls for some critical analysis or some guidelines, like how much of the day is spent on a screen, and to really parse that out, right? Because there's interactive media, which I think there's a lot of research that shows that supports student learning, and then there's passive media where you're just kind of watching something and there's almost very little educational benefit from that. I think I would like to continue talking about this, to think more deeply about how often are students on these devices? What are the sort of best practices that we want to think about? And how can we support teachers? Because I think as a teacher, it's confusing to know sometimes when to use it and when not to and what the purpose is. I think there's a degree of a layer of professional development that I see as an opportunity for this. And anecdotally, I know my kids have told me things about, and I agree. I think it should start with having a conversation with the teachers just to get a better sense as a parent, like what do you do on these devices? And like, how does it support your learning goals? The things like Epic, which I cannot make sense of, maybe you can help me. The only thing I could understand is that they read on it, which I was like, why don't we read a book? I didn't.
So some platforms are. I need to look into Epic and like,
Okay.
where is that being used?
Yeah.
Because we do have some of our platforms create like the differentiated text becomes very quick and easy for students, along with being able to like track and hear the books out
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
And then there are some places where that may not be good. I will say this. I think our teachers generally do a very good job of balancing, like having books and paper and pencil in hands and not too much screen time. Pierce has generally been a space where people have been very like reluctant to technology, and it wasn't until the pandemic that we really saw an increase in the use of it. And through like classroom observations, we do observe for that and provide feedback and look at like what was the purpose of this activity, and did that particular approach really benefit student learning, or did it take away? Like I've met with teachers who have like a common Google Doc, but it's completely unnecessary versus like a group just having a graphic organizer on paper in
Right.
front of them and like taking their notes.
Right.
So we do look for that. And I will, I mean, like generally, I mean, there are going to be one-off situations where there is a concern, but generally I think our teachers actually do a pretty good job of that.
Saying that's interested in this or has been thinking about it, step one is talk to your classroom
Yeah.
teacher. And by no means do I mean to say that this is not something that doesn't require. I think you're right. Teachers should talk to parents, but also as a school, I do think that we need some guidelines about this. Because digital literacy is important, right? It's a skill that students need in the 21st century, but it's also, I think, just being used in a way that's, I think, detrimental to student learning.
But I. Where we wanna lead it, they have choice to use technology. In writing skills. Like, perhaps the example that I have done with my kids is I have a regular dictionary. I mean, I just read it. They know how to use it. That's what it is. Still have a chance, but I think it's something that these little ones are coming more prepared to use technology right away. Yeah, that's so. So it's how much they be willing to allow their
use.
yeah. So
And back to our conversation about the virtual academy and some of how that's problematic. Because I think part of the silver lining of the pandemic was that we realized technology cannot replace schools. But somehow it's creeped into so many more parts of the day.
So I hear a lot of like the deficit mindset around like the use of virtual learning spaces, but I think it's also an asset. So the fact that like, had we not had the virtual academy, our kids would not have an acceleration option. So I think that there is like a benefit, maybe not like 100% ideal, but like it's opening doors that would not have existed. And from an equity angle, more students district-wide will now have access to advanced algebra and geometry. And they're also opening the language hub so that students can engage in like a Spanish class every day of the week after school. And so I think that there is the access that would not have existed.
Yes, we jumped back and forth a little bit. So the next item on the community group reports, is PSO. So thank you for sending us the report, Michelle. Was it late? It was fine. It was totally fine.
The letter went home today and an email went home today, and I think the district may have sent the same thing home yesterday. But all students have the option to take the test again, and if you do not want your child to take the test, then there's an opt-out form.
Yeah, so students who took the test last time
Yeah.
successfully.
Correct, correct. Majority did. There were some that did not, for a couple of different reasons, but majority of our students did. But there were a lot of issues with the testing, like, experience. And so and to stay within our budget of $80, right? There, events I've talked about fall fest this Saturday from 1 to 4. It's fun family, family event, and we have a lot of, it's a free event. We have free games and crafts for the kids. Younger, we're doing plowing, which we thank you for suggesting that. So we're going to incorporate that with some really crafts, and the PSO purchase t-shirts for tie dye. So that's in the so the spirit, buy a t-shirt for $10, or you could bring your own t-shirt if you want, and tie dye it here. And sure. And we are also offering for our having a diaper donation, and that's they're growing for place. And we'll have a something at the fall fest, and then we'll have it the next week of school in that's security guard. Like we did last year for the boat drive, this year for the I think that's it. We do just find a sustainable or eco-friendly way to put the resident ticket. Open, there's photo on it. So these are $1 tickets. So things will be for sale, food and other and pumpkins. So you can buy these tickets. If that is your kids, you can run around and send them, and then collect them, and you can look at them. And that was Lauren's idea. Ash's idea, Lauren, supplied these. It's really fun, and I'm hoping it generates
PT, parent teacher conference lunch is on October 26th, which is Thursday during the conferences, and it would be a potluck considered lunch. The fall book fair is happening, and we're gonna wait till after the book fair. And we want to survey the community upstairs to find out how we feel about book fairs, and we'd like to meet with other vendors to offer opportunities to ensure equity for all, and also to put a book against some book so that will be coming after the book fair. And our storage and after the meeting for the hour where yes, I'm going to. So it will be a place where always houses for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next is RP. I don't know that we got anything out. We did the. Very good. Thank you. Any questions about that one? Committee reports. Back. Very good. Did they share anything else besides? Okay. So we got just a minute. Okay, very good. Equity committee.
As long as you said that they were not
Final.
approved, like, because especially we have like the virtual space, so it's not like the secret. I think you can, I mean, that could be a technical question to ask. I thought you could. That's a good question. I thought you question.
I've been posting our meetings, but saying it's not approved. Will be approved.
Yeah. I thought that's how you could.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
The first thing that rest of this the other, yeah, I think the and then that what you have said. But we wanna brainstorm strategy of support, creating a strategy to ensure that there's translation at all students. Someone brought the idea of patients thinking that on to ensure that, you know, like, for example, to create the agenda for the equity committee meeting, I just pop it into people, which is, I understand from what we're Spanish speakers, probably a little bit better mechanism. And it's a little cumbersome because you can only put like up to 60 words at a time, I think. But so anyway, we just kind of we're tossing ideas around for supporting the school in the right. And then rep two steering committee members. And we talked about having rep on our agenda for every meeting and just more in concert with rep in general. Both us presenting at their meetings and our meetings and having agendas. And along with that, we also talked about doing so with that. So I've been communicating with that and going to their meetings to let them know that we want to work more in concert with them And then also Dr. pointed out that, Ms. Randall has a background in trauma and practice, so
Thank you very much. The next item, or any questions? Next item is principal evaluation. There's nothing to report. We have no upcoming surveys just yet. I think it's gonna be at the end.
Training because of the competition.
Yeah.
I think all LSC members will have to go through that. I don't know if they've released training dates yet.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I mean, they had in-person or virtual training that worked out really well, and then now it's all internet-based, and there's a little bit of a law. I mean, like those slides are from 2000, like 1997 or something like that. Sure. Yeah, it's. I mean, I volunteered to at least change the slides. I said, yeah. Yeah. Bylaws. Yeah. We haven't heard back from Luis, so we did share with the Office of Local School Council Relations the newest version of the bylaws, just to make sure they had them. I haven't seen a response or one way or the other. Okay, I think we're good. Excellent. Next item, old business. So update on teachers, community rep vacancies. So the community rep vacancy, I think, is the next item there. We're close to getting one more member, hopefully representative. And then, as Lori shared, we now have one. So we have a student rep, we have a new teacher rep. I was supposed to meet with her this week, and there was literacy night, and tonight was some other things. But I encourage folks to try and meet with her as if possible.
She's also new to the community. And so for her, there's a learning curve in understanding peers, the history, and understanding the LSC. The LSC is a new role. So I think when she joins us, it's just to sort of understand that she's not gonna have all the answers like right away, but she'll at least be able to be a liaison between the council and teachers. Yes.
Any questions about those?
Not yet, so I wanted to give it, like, I've been putting it in the bulletin as if there's a teacher that's interested to please reach out. So that then I can like formally announce a deadline. And so I'm just sort of like doing a little like back and forth, kind of like what I did with the first one. And then just as I'm talking to people, trying to gauge their interest. I do have someone that's possibly interested. They have a couple of things that they're trying to wrap up, and then they may be interested in joining. So I'm waiting also on that. But just like still trying to have just like one-off conversations with people.
New business. I am very excited about this. We have a community representative candidate joining us today. And I think we shared, so the application process has been since the beginning of this calendar, the school year, and we're fortunate to have a couple of folks interested in this. So without further ado, I want to introduce Liek. So, floor is yours.
1911, 1950. What do those three years have in common? Here. 1893, Helen C. Pierce started the Lakeview Women Club to gather and study, social issues. It was 1893. 1911, unfortunately, she passed away. So in the following year, her club members approached the Chicago School Board to name the school after her, because during those years of the Women's Club, they started a kindergarten program. They funded it, the Chicago School Board provided a teacher. So in 1915, the Helen Pierce School of International Studies was founded. And I was curious about the international studies part, because this goes back to 1893. What was Helen C. Pierce doing? Being curious about the world in 1893. So for me, the beginning and the foundation of an education is curiosity, inquiry, asking questions. And with that approach, there's truly no wrong way to go about it when your sole purpose is curious. And that's what brought me here, to be interested in being part of this community. My journey started worlds away. I was born in a village in South Sudan in roughly around 1980, 87. I don't know the days, the year, the month. Spent 10 years in the refugee camp during the Civil War, Uganda and Kenya. So in 2000 December, I was part of a program to resettle refugees. I ended up in Philadelphia, eventually to Michigan. So when I arrived in Michigan, the public school that I went to never had a single ESL program, English as a second language. So they went around to try to find it. They found someone, but she was from Canada. And I was, they speak English in Canada? Look, I'm just new to the country, but I realized that yes, they do speak English in Canada, and she was a great ESL teacher. And that was the beginning of my education in the US, formal education the first time. And the core of that has always been curiosity. What is the cost of things? Like, how did we end up here? How did Pierce come about? That was the first question I asked. Where did this school start? Who started it? And that's what drives me. I've been fortunate to complete my secondary school in Michigan, went on to university, went on to graduate school. Then when I had an opportunity, I started my career in the public sector to work for the US Agency for International Development, because that agency was the one that was dropping food in the camps that I was living in those 10 years. So that was important to me. And having lived through war, famine, disease, and all of that, we have a choice that we have to make at the end of the day. Do you want to be part of building the future, or do you want to focus on the past? The choice to me is very clear. Be part of building a better future. And as long as I'm part of this community, I want to be part of that. So when Rocky mentioned that there's an opportunity to join this community in this capacity, I raised my hand. And part of it too, I have two young kids, 4 and 1 years old. So my name is Lake Dane. I moved to Chicago 2 years ago from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I believe that this will be my first real home for a long time. I'm about 35, roughly, give and take. I have not spent more than 4 years in one place. And one thing that my wife and I have in common is that need to have a community for our kids, and for us to, for the first time, settle in one place and truly just take a walk and be part of building something that is going to be here for years to come.
So 130 years later, from 1893, October 3rd to October today, 2023, 130 years. This school is still going. So that's why I want to be part of this community. So appreciate this opportunity to join you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Next item here is we need to go to closed session. Or you can bounce, I mean, we can do whichever one works. We don't mean to have you guys leave or anything. You don't say, where the diapers? Sure, absolutely. That sounds good. You'll find out. Thank you so much. Thank you for your interest. Yeah. Bye. Michelle. Yes, we do. So then would I have to create a new one? I think it's fine. I can pause this and then we'll come back. All right. I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the community representative position. Any discussion? All in favor? Yeah.
So there was a second person, so the deadline was October 12th at 3 p.m. A couple of days ago, we received a second applicant for the community vacancy, and I asked Lynn to notify that person that they missed the deadline for this round, but to consider applying for the next, the next.
Next year.
So, it's just sort of the technicality of it.
All in favor? All right, good. We will now place this meeting in mute. hear my voice. All right, so now we are back. The live session. The next item on the agenda is to vote on the community representative vacancy. We all heard from Deng, and that was the only applicant for this particular position. So we're now gonna go into vote. But before we do that, any discussion? Oh, I think they left. I think they took off.
Carol,
Okay. I think in Lori's thing, it was for the remainder of this LSC. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to restart our meeting. All in favor? This is awesome. Any opposed? Okay, great. Now the next item, vote on community representative vacancy. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? The motion, I'd like to make a vote. Well, first, I'll let you guys go ahead. I talk too much. Do we have a motion? I want to ask him if he's related to Luo thing. He was a basketball player here. About the same height. All right, any second? Any discussion? All in favor? The motion passes. Congratulations. We now have a almost full LSC. I mean, we have both positions in the community rep, and I'm really excited about Omalara too. So this is great. This is great. Next item, public participation. I'm gonna check real quick, see if there's anything that came through. I'm not seeing anything on the Pierce inbox.
I just.
Yeah.
Sort of as public presentation. I just noticed that Byron's gone.
Byron sent me a note as we were when I checked for public participation. He had an impromptu emergency that caused him to miss this meeting, but he's definitely committed to resuming participation starting next month. It looks like, yeah. And he also said September, October, we're pretty busy for him. So that.
The CPU, in collaboration with Raise Your Hand, is providing modules, LSC training modules. It's called The Gathering. And it's through a coalition called LSC for All. They are phenomenal. I went to 2 so far. There was one on the budget and the other one was on how to do effective meetings. Compared to the CPS modules, I have to say they are incredible.
I thought you were gonna say compared to our meeting.
No. And actually,
Start taking it personally.
I was feeling like excited about how much of what they said was best practice is what we do in our meeting. But I learned a ton. So I'm going to be sharing those with all of you. Unfortunately, they're at 6 o'clock, usually on Tuesdays, I think, at right at dinner time. But if you register, they'll send you a recording. And just to give you a sneak peek, the funding or the budget training, they went through all of CPS's data website and showed you how to find literally anything that you want to find in comparison to any other school. Like if you want to look up who has the highest demographic of ELL students, who has the highest level of special needs students, who has where all the funding goes in specifically, the hyperlinks were just amazing. Yes, yeah, and yes, and they have a data scientist at the CTU that walks through everything. Was Sarah Rothschild, I think. Yeah, so I'm gonna continue to share them with the council, but I can tell you from firsthand, I wish I had access to them last year. Because I felt pretty lost last year. I mean, I still feel like I'm still figuring stuff out, like motions and all that, but I really gained a lot from it, so look out for those.
Compared to, recent schools like Source Fidelity. Oh, well, that sounds, there wasn't a large number, correct?
There's only 4.
Well, the
then
district
they're
is
not paying.
also really trying to, so where families are currently being housed temporarily, they're trying to work with schools very strategically through a registration and enrollment. And they've been also asking schools how many seats that they have at every grade level. And we don't have many seats at every grade level. We have a handful of seats. So they're trying to also support schools with lower enrollment to help increase enrollment in some seats that have been under-enrolled.
Decide whether or not they were ready to accept.
I mean, to some extent, but also no. So we were able to indicate how many seats we had per grade level, but you also then are not necessarily able to say no if you have seats. Per
Yeah,
grade.
I heard somebody else. There was frustration. Certain people that were in temporary housing close to the school, some of those schools that were closer to them were just able to say no.
If they didn't have space. And then the other question that they've been asking is, do you have a bilingual program? Do you have bilingual teachers? So wanting to make sure that you're not just sending kids to a school that won't have the support to truly support students in entering. So there have been like several factors. So it is possible that there may have been a school closed, but there may not have been space for a bilingual program. I don't think so. I'll make an announcement. We're finally gonna do our ribbon cutting ceremony for the playground on Halloween at 9:30 in the morning. And we have current Alderwoman Hoppenworth coming, along with former Alderman Osterman coming, because he was the one that had spearheaded the project. And then I think it'll be a really nice opportunity to celebrate after our Halloween parade, officially the lack of that muddy space.
haven't stepped on mud.
Amazing, right?
It's great. I don't know. I'm like, dude, there was water here. It's amazing. It's great.
Yeah, I think it was third and fourth that we'll probably have out, and then we're gonna have some spouse.
Will is there a second phase?
No, this is,
For-
it. We've got like a couple like fine tweaks that need to happen.
Yeah.
Like the stumps, I don't think they've cut those down yet. Did you see the gates though? They put gates. It's been, like, amazing. At the entryway on the east end and the west end, not in the middle where the turf is, but on those twins and then around the trash. Like we can actually close the space and not have to worry about. kids running. That's-
Oh yeah, I opened the door. Like the car's still rolling. Get out. Um,
What happened? Oh,
oh
really?
yeah.
I reported to, our.
The gate.
He was on vacation. so even if it-
Yeah, that was better than this.
Yeah.
But one speculate. Put a camera there, Adolfo.
There
There
is
is
one
one.
there.
It's already.
Figure it out. No, I'm serious.
So for, for the- Once, on that, on the cover. On the, but
Yeah, so Lynn has a letter that needs to go.
It came out, it came out.
But there's another one that wants
Did?
the forum, the LSC forum date. And so I'll have to establish, there's like a timeline between March 11th and March 19th, but I'll have to set a date for. It's not an LSC meeting, but it's the form for candidates running. So that letter will need to go out. We can put it on that. So if you can work with.
yeah, I sent the one.
Okay.
Give her a heads up, but
Yeah.
I-
We should use the district language. They have.
On the election.
The information about the. Last meeting, about cars, doing a U-turn.
Yes.
There's. This, couple of days, the kids are going to field trips. Been a couple cars there, do U-turns when their kids are. Coming in. So, we have a lot of cars there doing there, I don't know why. So, one of the things that my concern is this front section where we are too wide open, where we need the ramp. So maybe in the near future, we can do something like to block the cars will not come.
On the sidewalk in front of the school?
Yeah, they're going on top of the sidewalk.
That's what they do in the U-turn.
Yeah, because that's the
Yeah,
point. They
They
find
eat up
like
the
they have more space.
they eat up the sidewalks and make the U-turn.
They're
So we just need to put the horses. I would just put the horses.
yeah, that's.
But they still make the U-turns.
But not if a horse is on the sidewalk.
But you're gonna need a lot of horses to get to
But
cover
they're-
that area.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess. Probably a couple.
Yeah.
They wanna go out of their way to do a U-turn. True. I've been concerned about the speed at which some of them sort of zip through going east or west, depending on the time of the day. You know, when school is in session and there isn't that much traffic, fine, but in the morning, those of us that keep the car rolling when the kids come out, like people are going, when they're going east, there are quite a few people that are going quite fast. I mean, even the crossing guard, sometimes I've been a little bit concerned about that. But I don't know what can be done. I mean, like ideally, it will be a one-way street. But I also understand that, you know, we're picking up traffic from Western and Ashland and all of
I mean,
those,
it is one way until 8:10.
right?
Going,
Right? And that's very helpful. Yeah, right. And then you can't go in the alley too. 'Cause people were, I mean, there's some speedsters there. Um, It's shortly thereafter, once they reopen in both directions, somehow, I don't know if they're dropping their kids off and turning around or what, but there is one,
yeah.
and then it needs to be stopped. That's right.
Talked about, I mean, if we had parents that would step, you know, and step in and say that, that's what we talked about it in like parent groups in the past. It's been a while since we have, but we could never back home.
And we're gonna talk to Michelle. I mean, she's a crossing guard in Rogers Park at those times, at that hour. Michelle, she's a crossing guard in Rogers Park, so maybe she knows somebody, or maybe we can entice her to do this for peers.
Doing something.
Yeah, she's north. She's north.
But I think in the morning, wasn't she at like Jewel?
When I drive back home, she's at the corner of Pratt and Ashland. She's there now. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Sorry, we're dragging this on. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Another item, I brought it up last time. A personal goal of mine, as I mentioned, is to raise some money to get a float at next year's Argyle Lunar Year Parade. I haven't done anything yet, but it's in the works. I'll probably make the same announcement next meeting, but I just want to, no action, but I want to keep that in people's
Sometimes saying it out loud.
$750. You can, that's a great point. I think the idea is that, because for storage purposes, we'd have to find a place to put it. But those guys come in and it's already done and it's decorated. We just hop on. Yes, that's right. Per year. Yes, they've actually, the whole intent of the Lunar Year Parade is to, I mean, the traditional ones have very elaborate floats and things like that in that culture. Depending on what groups are present or represented, it's a matter of funding for some of those groups. And so I mean, I can double check again with, his name is Greg, could be wrong, the guy that's yeah, I think it will be, I think it will be great, because then it will be contained and it'll be fun for the kids too to be on that. I'm sorry. Yes. So this is good. My apologies.
So far, we had a WhatsApp group, because I needed, to just figure out how to bring more parents in for the Diwali celebration that we're trying to have at Pierce. So if you know of someone from the diaspora, anyone from the subcontinent that's interested in, one, just building community, and two, bringing culturally relevant events to the school, please refer them to me, or Hina has been helping me. Hina Muhammad has been helping me a lot with that. Big, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I have his contact.
checking on norms. Laura's tired. Let's move on. Let's be aware of her needs. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you, everyone. This is great.
Party float.
Yeah, I'm saying we're gonna make 2 rounds. I want to go around. What? A float? No, it was not necessarily biggest. It was actually really cool what Gaudi did, right? Like, I mean, they had, yeah, they come decorate. Ashley told me about it. She's like, we could. I mean, I'm sure we could partake and like get some of the banners and all that stuff. And we could get we'll get the kids to come up with the stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.